Stiff truth.
Okay.
You have to focus. You have to focus on not moving.
It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
I love your day drinking background.
Oh, yeah. That's just like from an old one. I was checking to see how things were. Turns out things are okay. So, okay. Well, welcome, Bobby. Welcome. It's the Stiff Truth. Yes. Coming at it again, baby. Yes, just like that, with the reach around type of backhanding motion. I am Scott Castelnova, and with me, as always, is my glorious, just beautiful beast of a man, Mr. Bob West. How the hell you doing, baby?
I am doing fantastic, and I am rather beastly. So I appreciate the spot on description.
I do what I can. I try to tell it here stiff, and I try to tell it truth. That's what I try to do. I try to combine those two things for every show. It's hard. It takes lots of focus and effort and training and practice, but I think we're doing a good job. So yes, definitely a beastly, sexy man over here. We got an action-packed show today, Bobby. I don't know about you, but I'm super excited. I think I'm super excited for every single show, and I don't know if that's odd or just the way it is, because I'm really pumped about just having conversations with you and having some cocktails. Call me crazy. First and foremost here, before we dive into our glorious content today, what the fuck do you have in that glass over there, my friend? What are you drinking today? What do we got?
I'm drinking a slow ball.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I got one of those too. It's interesting here. Let's
It looks fantastic. It's awfully red. I love the color.
Yeah. I want to say it's almost looks like fruit punch. You know what I mean?
And like some Kool-Aid.
Yeah, straight up Kool-Aid. But I'll tell you what, it does not taste like Kool-Aid, Bob. Let me just.
No, it tastes kind of like grapefruit aid. I mean, so it's vodka, gin, slow gin, orange juice, sweet and sour. It's a little bit tart. I think the gin is causing the tartness. Maybe I'm off there, but it is a little tart, almost grapefruity.
Yeah, I don't know. That was my second try. I don't like to judge too much on the first sip or what have you, like we had right before we started the show here today. But with that second, go around here with this cocktail, I don't like it that much. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, no, same. It's just it's not stiff enough or sweet enough. I don't know what it is. But it's not making our list. But we tried it out, and that's just us. We get points for venturing outside of our norm.
Yeah.
So I like pushing the boundary of our palate.
Yes, very much so. And that's just how we do it over here at the Stiff Truth, because you do have to step out of your comfort zone, and you sometimes have to drink something that's not so desirable or
yeah, you do.
I don't know what the hell Bob's talking about here. I'm referring to the cocktails that we have. I think he's just got the emphasis on the cock, maybe not the tail. But it is interesting. I will say that I haven't had a cocktail that quite tastes like this. So there's that. You know what I mean? It's definitely something new and exciting and different.
Yeah, it's because normally we make good cocktails.
I'm literally trying to church it up a little bit here, but just in case anybody wants to get out there and experience a little bit of life, and I'm not talking about pleasures of life, but just maybe some hard truths out there, go make yourself one. And I'll give you the proportions here. It's an ounce of slow gin and then a half ounce of gin and vodka. Says, this is where me and Bob were having a little bit of a debate, maybe like just a little question mark on this one, but it says in the Bartender Black Book, which again, that's truth right there. That's solid gold right there when it comes to cocktails. It says a dash of sour mix. I'm not sure what the fuck a dash is, to be honest with you, because I see some people when they're cooking or something like that, like a cooking show, like a dash is like a little bloop, bloop, like barely even a spit up. You know what I mean? Like bloop, bloop, just like a little bit like that. Maybe this guy's dash who wrote this book is a little bit healthier, so to speak.
Well, what I went with was a half ounce of sour mix, so that was my dash. I made a double, so it really was quarter ounce per serving is kind of what I figured a dash would be. So I don't know. Again, I can't quite place like where this could be improved. I think the best way that you can improve this drink is by making a different drink.
Hey, you got to give it to me stiff, baby. And I love that about you. But absolutely, again, we stepped out. We love variety. Man's got to have variety and everything. But this is one that probably gave you a little bit of a burn in your pee, and you're not going to go back to that same whorehouse.
Well, it's funny because I made my wife one when I was making me one, and I know she's in there like not liking this. So I know we're gonna get in there and it's gonna be still full, and she's gonna ask for something else.
It's interesting. I made one for Jamie too, and I have no idea how it went. You know what I mean? But I'm assuming the same. But who knows? Maybe I'm gonna be surprised, and she's gonna be like, "Those slow balls are really good. She make me another one." I don't know. Everybody's got a different palate, but I don't know. You know what's weird? That's my third and fourth sip. It's actually going down a little bit better.
Well, yeah, alcohol works that way. Once it starts taking the edge off, it starts tasting better.
I wonder if the unpleasant taste is searing off my taste buds or something like that with every sip, like kind of like gasoline or something like that. I'm not sure. But hey, you know what? Again, this is one where the color is beautiful. And now we know you want to get this kind of color, throw some slow gin into a beverage with some clear liquor, right? So because that's how we get that beautiful color there. It is a gorgeous color. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and tease it because I want to go ahead and make a commitment so that we do it. Coming up next week on the Stiff Truth, we're going to be having big titty orgies. Wow. So we got that to look forward to.
So what are we going to have to drink?
I don't know yet.
Hey, dude, I love the topic, and the exercise, so to speak, sounds super fun.
So yeah, next week's drink's going to be a big titty orgy, and it's going to be the base of that drink is Everclear, some grain alcohol. So it'll be an interesting drink. It'll be an interesting week probably after the drink, but I do want to. I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there so that we are committed and we're in. Big titty orgies next week, folks.
I like what you did there. I mean, there's no turning back now. I got to go buy some Everclear, which is, interesting.
So do I.
We don't have that for the bar. And I understand why, because we're not like 17, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you do need it to make really stiff cocktails. Let's face it, right? I mean, something that we have in the bar, we've got overproofed rum. We got the 151. We even got absinthe, right? And those are two pretty beefy cocktails too.
They're not far. Bacardi 151 is not far from Everclear.
Yeah, no,
let's not call that a huge leap.
It's pretty legit. I mean, you're absolutely right with that right there. So, okay. Well, I guess I'm going to buy Everclear. If I remember correctly, too, when I lived in New Mexico, you could buy Everclear in the regular section of Walgreens. Not even in the liquor section. It was by like the SD rubbing alcohol and shit like that.
It's by the medical supplies,
like the isopropyl. I don't even know. I forgot how to say it, but you know what I'm saying.
It makes sense because Everclear is like
grain alcohol.
Like, is it 90, 95 proof?
Something ridiculous. Like
90, 95% or something like that.
If it's a test, Everclear's gets a solid A out of 100%. You know what I mean? Like it's a solid A.
Right. And so rubbing alcohol is in the same ballpark. So I mean, that's essentially what we're drinking here. Let's just call that what it is. Let's not polish this turd.
Big titty orgy. This next week is going to be a blast. I'll tell you that right now. It's going to taste as good as it sounds. It sounds like too, which is super fun. Oh my God. But well, hey, dude, we got a lot of great content here. I think we need a little bit of an update though, because if the Stiffies remember, Bob just decided to share some personal things at the end of the show, kind of like I'm not even sure if we wanted him to share, but he went ahead anyway. He's kind of like that guy like on the subway or whatever that tells you that he just did a dookie or something like that. You're like, okay, cool. Right.
Like that guy in the subway that stares at you while he's rubbing one out, like that guy.
Yes,
that's the guy. Yeah. So and it might have been an overshare, but my thinking is that my life is an open book. I've lived my life. I've learned my lessons. I am where I am today because of where I've come from and what I've experienced. So I'm never ashamed of where I'm at or what I've been through. And I've learned in my old age to have a high level of the gaff. Don't give a fuck. Right.
I like that.
What I wanted to share that is just, I found it interesting that after 40 years of life, 41 years of life, I realized that, I make fun of Howie Mandel for his weird fucking OCD shit, but at the same time, I'm over there picking my finger, like making fun of him with my weird OCD shit. And in retrospect, what an asshole. Like, and true to form, like what a fucking asshole.
You really are. We've always known that part about it. So that's no shocker to anybody here. However, why you're being a complete asshole, you've got some ticks. So
I do. Big ticks, huge ticks, girthy ticks.
I see. I knew you were going to go there, Bob, and I knew it was going to turn into something, something phallic. It always does. But I like that about you. You are predictable in a very charming way. Let's go ahead and say that.
So I'm going to go ahead and say that, like, I developed this thing to where I pick my cuticles. Like, I just kind of pick the edge of my finger there, and I never really realized it. I specifically started working at a coffee shop in 2005.
Oh, I remember that, dude. The quadruple espressos and stuff like that.
I make the best
Good
fucking
stuff.
coffees, right? Best barista. I was a really good fucking barista. Know my shit with coffee. But the thing about making coffee is that you're constantly washing your hands, right? Because you're cleaning, you're handling cups, you're handling people's food, you're handling their drinks, whatever. So you're constantly washing your hands. You know what I mean? You scratch your balls, you wash your hands. You go to the bathroom, you wash your hands. You fucking sneeze, you wash your hands. It's just, you wash your hands like 20 times a day when you're a barista. And that's just kind of how it is, or in general in the food industry, one would hope. But so my hands were always like really soft, and my cuticles were always like really soft. And I kind of always like picked that softness out. And then I developed this like weird tick during that time. And I thought I developed it then, but it actually goes farther back to like scab picking and just like general like lip biting with the skin on your lip. And so I started thinking like that's kind of where it surfaced up to be recognizable as like a thing, right? It was kind of 2005 forward, but even still, that's 17 years ago. That's still a long time, and I was like well into adulthood at that point. So it's just a interesting tick that I finally got identified. And if you look at the picture here for the Facebook, let me get out of the way so you can see this.
It's delicious. Now, is that your hand?
That is not. That is someone else. But as you saw from last week, when I showed my finger, it was very, very similar to that.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's common there. It normally happens on my thumb and my index finger. But sometimes I get froggy with it, and I'll start like going to different fingers. It's weird. I've never picked my toes because that's just nasty. I have standards.
You got to draw the line somewhere. And I appreciate that you do that. Now, doesn't that hurt?
So, it does. Sometimes. Like, you'll get to the point where like I'll pick or whatever, and I'll just be picking. But then I'll get to the point where I just have a little bit more to go, and then I'll pick it off and it'll be clean. And then I'll stop because then it'll grow back normal if it's all like even. Right. And then I'll pick too far, and I'll just try to like pull that last little bit off. And next thing you know, I'm bleeding and I have my thumb wrapped in a fucking napkin or something. Or like I have a finger condom on, those little finger things that you put on your finger to prevent, when you have a finger injury. So, yeah, it's a weird thing. I'm a weird guy. I don't know what to say. I'm a weird guy. I do weird things. I pick my fucking fingers. Sometimes I pick till I bleed. Sometimes I bite my lip till I bleed. I thought it was nerves. I thought it was just me not being able to handle it. I thought it was anxiety, but turns out it's a coping mechanism for something that I deal with. Dermatillomania.
Interesting. Now, you know what I was kind of thinking about here, just again going over this, we'll call it a disorder. Is it a disorder? Yeah, I guess it is.
It's
disorder,
a behavioral disorder. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What if there was like nothing wrong with the tips of your fingers? Like if you just looked at them and they were just perfectly aligned, no excess of skin hanging off, would that be a moment of zen for somebody like you then? Like, oh my God, life is perfect. Or would you literally start fucking with it to create that little hangnail type, like a loose thread or something? So I wonder.
Like right now, I'm doing pretty good. I got
pretty ship shape there.
They're okay.
Yeah, right? Not bad at all. Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah.
So normally when I notice that my fingers are good like that, I start feeling proud of myself. And then later in the day, I'll find myself picking at them. Like they were too good, or something happened, right? Or even if I don't trim my nails and they get a little bit too long, I'll notice that I'll rub my finger along my cuticle there, and it'll catch something because my nail's longer and sharper than it should be, right?
Sure.
And then that'll start the whole thing, and it'll start at the top, and then it'll work its way down. Sometimes it goes all the way down, like halfway to my like thumb knuckle or past, like a big ass string of fucking epidermis getting torn off, right? So that's it. It's just it's a weird thing. It's something that I battle, but it's an interesting thing because it's OCD for
Yep.
me, and I've never like really. I know I got issues, but I've never like had like identifiable ones, and I never had like something that's common that hundreds of thousands or millions of people deal with all across the world. And I just always figured, I'm just a weird guy and I deal with this, but it's a thing. And it makes me feel better knowing that it's a thing, knowing that I'm not the only one that fucking expresses my anxiety in this weird tick, that other people actually do this. I haven't found some creative way of self-mutilation to fucking resolve my anxiety, that this is a thing that other humans have actually resorted to as well.
That's good. It's always nice to have company, regardless of it.
Yeah, I'm not alone.
You know what
I'm
I mean?
not alone. I'm a fucking weirdo, but I have friends.
Well, it's kind of you do. I'm before I didn't want to leave that as a cliffhanger to where you were like kind of like, I have friends, right? I was like, of course you do, Bob. Anyways,
well, we were friends until you started picking your fingers. That's just fucking weird, dude. I'm out.
No, yeah, dude. I'm gonna have to distance myself from you. I don't want to catch that shit. You know what I mean? Because I know it's transferable by anal sex, and that scares me.
That's how I got it.
But it's interesting because good, bad things. It always feels much better when you're in company, when you know there's other people that have something similar or very the same. Like you and I too. Probably, I'll be honest, probably some of the only people I can think of off the top of my head that have zero tattoos, that have unscathed skin, so to speak. You know what I mean? Which is interesting because we are the vast minority right now. Now, I'm not trying to put myself in some kind of special little box here where I need special treatment or I'm being oppressed or anything like that. But I think that's really interesting. And I'll tell you what, Bob, I've been noticing more and more and more that like tattoos don't really mean what they used to. We talked about this a long time ago. I think we mentioned in season 1 just how it was kind of odd now that we don't have any tattoos. And I think when we were growing up, like at the beginning of our lives, that was more of a norm in the sense for everyday run of the mill, kind of just modern, normal people.
Well, just think about it. Like literally all of our friends have tattoos.
Yeah. Multiple tattoos.
Yeah.
And I've seen kids now where it's hard for me to determine what their age is because I was like, well, he's got a full sleeve, so he's at least got to be 21, right? But no, that's not the case anymore. There's like kids that are like in high school that are getting some pretty detailed, heavy work, which is fine, totally cool. And before we get much more into like what I'm saying here, I love tattoos. I think they look phenomenal on people. I think they're amazing. I have none because I'm very indecisive, and I have this huge worry of regret, which I think that only made sense back in the day because now tattoo removal is leaps and bounds better and cheaper and just more streamlined than it used to be when we were kids. I don't know if you ever seen the old school tattoo removal. My pops has some. They look horrible. They look worse when they were removed because they just look like burns. But now it's like something that can be done with like some like kind of laser type removal that looks pretty fucking cool. So maybe that's one of the things where people know they can get them removed easier and for cheaper now. So I don't know, but it is very interesting to me that not only now can I not really determine like somebody's age by their tattoos anymore, with at least kind of putting an anchor at a certain age or something like that, but I've noticed it in the professional world. Things are kind of changing. I don't know if you notice this too. Let me ask you, you're a manager of sorts, right? At your place, you oversee some folks. Do any of your employees have noticeable like sleeve, neck tattoos, facial tattoos, hand tattoos, stuff like that are like harder to cover up with like your normal work attire?
A few, but I'm in government, so a lot of the sleeves will be 3/4 sleeves where you can still wear a button up and no one will know. right? Very rarely do you see like the neck tats or whatever. Like you see some women that'll wear, different dresses or different cuts or whatever, and you'll see like the tattoo in their chest or something, or their upper arm or something come out, or but very rarely do you really see it, at least where I'm at in government.
Hmm.
But I did work at Intel in the private sector, and it was much more prevalent there. And this was 2007 to 2009. I worked at Intel, and interesting thing there was engineers there that had like gauged ears and neck tats and sleeves and bald heads and just like whatever, anything goes, and it was very very tolerated there. And 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 I think one of the key components there is, first, when you work in government, you're dealing with a lot of ex-military, you're dealing with a lot of older conservative people. So,
Sure.
so there's that's the difference. But I think in general, like from our generation forward, you know, um, we're much more acceptant of the tattoos. My son, for instance, asked me, "I want a piercing and a tattoo," and
Of
I'm
course he
like,
does.
"I want you to get honor roll." There's a compromise to be made here, right?
That's a fair
uh
trade. That's a definite fair trade.
you're under 18. You can't get it unless you like, find a shady ass place that'll do it for you. um but if you just give me what I'm looking for and work hard, I'll just take you down there.
Yeah.
Fuck, you want a quarter sleeve? Let's just get you like 4 sessions. That's the least I could do for you, getting like a 3.8. That's a reasonable thing for me. I don't really care. I don't think it makes him a criminal. I don't think it makes him an asshole. I think it just makes him someone that wants to express himself artistically with his fucking skin. And you and I, go ahead. You know what? Let me give you a bit on this. I'll talk in a second.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like what you just had mentioned there. That's what I was thinking about. Is the persona, the idea of having a decent amount of tattoos used to be just what you just said. Like, and you said it because you come from our generation. It's like, I don't, it makes him a criminal, but right out of the gate, that was kind of the stereotype. Men, especially men or women, Jesus Christ. But back, like if you're like the 50s through like the 80s, I'll say the late 80s or something like that, if you had a shitload of tattoos, odds are at least it was kind of like the stereotypical bucket that you were like a criminal, some kind of badass, some kind of rebel, some kind of edgy person or something like that. And that's just no more. That's all I was going to say. I think that's very interesting because I feel the allure and kind of the attraction to getting tattoos still has that framework behind it, but it's just not there anymore because everybody's doing it. Like people are getting full sleeves that are now like also attending Harvard and shit like that. And but again, and I don't want to say that was never happening before, but I'm using that as like an outlandish kind of example. It's like people can be like very, very well-to-do, very goody type people or whatever, and look like they literally just got out of a jailhouse, like Prison Break or something like that.
Well, on the surface, yes, right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so you and I had a couple of conversations about this, man, 20 years ago, where it's just like, I don't have any tattoos. I've been wanting to get one, but then I just saw all my friends were getting tattoos to be different, and
Mhm.
now I feel like getting a tattoo makes me fit in. And I don't
Mm,
want to get a tattoo anymore because now I feel like I'm just doing it to fit in. Like the whole being different thing is kind of out for me because, and that was 20 years ago.
yeah,
And here we are
that's true.
now, and it's even more prevalent. So I would say, I would make a commitment that if you wanted to get a tattoo with me, I would do it. But I wanted to say TST or the stiff truth or something right on my chest. Bam. I
Wow.
would do that.
That's commitment, sir, right there.
I
Talk
would do
about
that.
that. That's more than financial commitment right there. That's pretty heavy. I like that. I like where you're going there. I could be down with that. I'll have to marinate on that, obviously, because again, it's a big decision for somebody like me. I can never make a decision about anything that's somewhat semi-permanent. But yeah, I like that. That's definitely going to be I think that's in the pool though. That's definitely there. Good for you. I like that. I like that. Now, that is interesting though too, because here's the other thing I've been noticing, Bob. And I talked to you about this a couple of weeks ago, I think. And it again, I gotta throw it out there before I get into it. It sounds like it's going to sound like I'm kind of ripping people up a little bit for this because I am. Let's just face it. But I've seen some people, especially on like professional networks now, like LinkedIn and stuff like that, where they're changing their profile pictures, their professional profile pictures to, completely sleeveless so they can see all their tattoos. Looks really cool. Again, so the fantastic work that they've got done. They're very proud of it. They spent a decent amount of money on it. But the rhetoric and the narrative that's coming out of some of these people, I think is, I'll just say it, somewhat pathetic. You know what I mean? And somewhat like, hey, I can be a victim too. I can be oppressed. Check this out. I'm just going to come out and do it, and I'm going to show you I'm very proud of my tattoos. And I've been suppressed for God, years and years and years, having to wear a pantsuit and things like that and covering up who I am. And I'm just not going to do it anymore. I am going to just spread my wings and get out here, my tatted up wings, and just fly free. And everybody's like, you go, sister, you go, brother. Oh my God. That's so inspirational. And I think to myself, I'm like, okay, that's cool. I mean, there's obviously a paradigm shift happening in the professional world where tattoos are more socially acceptable in a professional setting. Fantastic. Awesome. Great. That's fucking awesome. But the way that some people are kind of spinning it, it makes it, and it seems very comparable to people standing up for like the race that they are or the religion that they are. And I'll even point it more at race, where they're feeling oppressed. They're feeling just like they've been sheltered for a long time, and like they're just going to come out. They just don't care what anybody thinks anymore. It's not the same. And that's where I kind of started being like, all right, this is ridiculous, dude. Let's settle down. First of all, when you start like having the same narrative as somebody like being proud of their race for something that you decide to get put on your body as most likely an adult, it's just not the same thing. So I'm going to call bullshit on some of these people, because I think it's a sad attempt to get the spotlight put on them when they have nothing that they could potentially actually rightfully have it on them for, with race, religion, or something of that nature.
I'm gonna completely agree with you on that. So if you go and get horns implanted into your forehead, I don't want you to come back and then tell me how people treat you different in a professional setting.
Right. You're like, I'm such a victim here.
That was a possibility, and you chose to accept that oppression and move forward with it. And then you can't actually complain about the medicine that you're going to have to take for having made that decision. I agree with you there. I would say that as the boomers are retiring or dying out of business, and
Jesus Christ, that was dark.
I'm sorry. That's just how it is, dude. America gets better as boomers die and retire out of fucking life. I'm sorry. I'm just, that's another show, but I think that boomers fucked America up more than any other generation in the history of the fucking America.
Well, love you, pops. Love you, mom. Just saying.
yeah. Sorry, but you were part of the problem. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I do. So as they move out of the culture and move out of the decision making, they move out of politics, they move out of business leadership. The first of all, Gen Xers are fucking gangster. Right, very, very accepting, right? Had to deal with boomers as their actual parents, right? So not their grandparents, right? So Gen Xers are amazing, but even so, like the Gen Yers, the Gen Zers, the Gen Yers are millennials. Sorry, millennials, if you don't know what that is. And then the Gen Zers are like, anyone under 25. Basically is a Gen Zer, and I don't even know what the fuck they call the kids, because I don't care. They don't make decisions yet. But as they move forward, then the culture moves forward. So the tattooed, the piercing, even the pronoun thing that we see coming up, they're on their own thing with that, right? But the bottom line is the people that are running the country right now are transitioning from boomers to millennials, right? And Xers and millennials both. And that transition, I think, is really opening things up to the very thing that you talked about. More people are available with their tattoos. Yes, don't call it a handicap if you did it to yourself. That's just retarded. Sorry for my fucking language, but it is. Don't be retarded.
Hey, some people are retarded. You know what I mean? We got to call that shit out here on the Stiff Truth. We tell it like it is.
So beyond all of that, PC, tones aside, as these younger people start taking positions of leadership, much like myself, we're much more tolerant. I had someone like hire this guy that had like half shaved head and like fucking gauged ears, like this weird goth kid, right? And I'm just like, listen, is he qualified? Can he do the work? Oh, well, yeah, he seems very skilled. We gave him a test and he did very well. And it's just like, okay, well, set aside those appearance normalities, right? And focus on the skill set. Who cares if he's a weirdo? You know, if unless it's going to cause an actual conflict on the team or whatever, you bring him in and you don't discriminate against that, and you just bring him in, and then good for you for choosing to take that risk and move forward like that. And I think more people are going to keep taking that risk over the next 10-20 years, to where you're going to see a lot more acceptance beyond tattoos. Yeah. Right. It's just into the workplace, into leadership, because man, there just comes a point in time when you don't want to look around the conference room and just see all the neckties hanging down, and you see a bunch of, half of them are fucking morons, right? They're just there because they look the part and they fucking have the degree, right? And they have the experience, but don't actually produce anything significant more than the next guy. But what you want to find is that talent that drives things regardless. And sometimes the people that have the balls to make the decisions to move people forward are the people that have the face tattoos.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And the suits, you know what I mean? Being a qualifier of like a professional, like good employee is like the definition of dressing up a piece of shit. You know what I mean? It sometimes it doesn't
polishing that turd, baby.
Yeah. Meaning it doesn't mean anything besides they look at the historical part of somebody. That means business. But that, again, it doesn't really matter. And you have to be, and I'm on the same train of thought here, the same philosophy that you're literally minimizing and making your pool of talent potential too small if you're not casting that net out there with all different types of people, regardless of their race, religion, how they look, whatever, you know, sex, all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, you're being stupid as a businessman, especially as an employer or a person in leadership, to say, you know what, I just want people that look like this, that talk like this, that are from these schools. You're like, okay, you're going to also miss out on probably the most talented people if you have that kind of narrow view for recruiting, right? So there's that. But again, I do think it's interesting because I've seen some people go viral and just people piggyback off of it to the point where it has seen it's seen like a horrible cry for help, or not really even cry for help, cry for look at me, somebody pay attention to me. I really have no reason to feel oppressed, but I'm going to create one. And that's a lot of the artwork and scribbles I got put on myself here. And I can't believe that people treat me this way. I need to get out of my shell here and stand up for my rights. Whatever.
I don't know why I keep getting passed in the upper management job. It's like ever since I got this face tattoo and these horns, people don't take me serious.
Yes, like I
said. So yeah, there is that. I mean, you have to accept that level of fucking oppression if you're going to be doing that to yourself, because you got to figure who's the ones making the decision at that level to hire you. They're still boomers. They're still hanging on.
Barely though, which is barely, you know what I mean? And that is one of the things that we have seen. And again, like the whole reason you can have this dialogue now and in a professional network or something like that is because people know that a lot of their superiors now are very progressive in the sense that they are not boxed in by old boomer kind of rules of just business professionals anymore. So they can step out of that and say, hey, look at all these tattoos I have. I'm super proud of them, and I'm just gonna like stop hiding them. Okay, cool. Right on. Now let's move on and let's talk about something more important. I mean, honestly, seriously, that's just me. And again, I don't have any tattoos, so maybe I'm being a total prick about this. You tell me, Bob. Is that what's happening?
If we get some, we'll make a series of TikToks about it. 100%.
I'll get TST tattooed on the inside of my lip. You know what I mean? I'll really go dirty with it. If I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna go in balls deep. You know me, Bob. That's how I always roll.
Balls deep.
Yes, that's the one. Well, speaking of really not limiting your talent pool here, We had a conversation the other day that was quite enlightening to me. I don't know. Again, I wasn't able to do the research, Bob, on how far reaching this is across the country, but New Mexico, pretty fucking impressive what they did there with the lottery scholarship expansion. My God, I was actually talking to Jamie about this earlier today. I was like, dude, like if they would have had this when I was going to college, I would have never lost my scholarship, my couple of scholarships I had, which is interesting. It just seems very, very lax on the requirements. And I think it's made that way so people that have full-time jobs, kids or whatever, can still go through higher education for free. So without like kind of beating around the bush anymore, it looks like now if you do not have a bachelor's degree and you meet the requirements to go to college, you can now go to a 2 or 4 year university or technical school in New Mexico free of charge on the state. Is that correct?
Now, I haven't even seen the qualifier of if you already have a bachelor's. I think you can even go back for a different degree and still have it paid for. So,
but it's not, you can't go for like a master's in something.
Though. No higher education, like no graduate school, which is fair. You want a master's degree, take your $50,000 student loan and go get your master's degree. You're going to get paid out the ass when you start with your new degree. So that's okay. But interesting thing about New Mexico. So for those that are in New Mexico, which is actually the majority of our listeners, but New Mexico's educational system is fucking terrible. Like we rival Mississippi for the worst every year.
Yeah,
it's us in Mississippi battling it out like fucking, Jake Paul.
There you go.
Trying to get notoriety. So what we have right now is we have a lottery scholarship. So we have a Powerball, we have a New Mexico lottery or whatever, and some of the revenue for that goes specifically to providing scholarships. So what that does currently is if you graduate high school, you get an opportunity for a lottery scholarship and the Bridge to Success scholarship. So you don't have to pay any money. You just go, you maintain a 2.5, you go right after you get your GED or your diploma, and you go on to college and you get your lottery scholarship as long as you maintain a 2.5 and you stay in school enrolled in 15 credit hours plus, which is like fucking 5 classes a term, which is a beast load. Then you get it all paid for 100%. And I believe that's even room and board if you want to go live in the dorm. Mm-hmm. So everything. Now, I was offered the lottery scholarship. I went back to community college. I picked my third degree to work on. Finally finished, got a business degree from community college and was offered the lottery scholarship to go to a state school, to go to UNM. I couldn't accept it because there was no way I could do 15 credit hours while like
doing anything else but school,
right while working, right?
Yeah.
So it's just too much. At most I can take 2, sometimes 3 classes a term, and that's really pushing it to actually like get out of these classes what I need to get education wise and get the GPA that I require that I need to get. Mm-hmm. Right, I'm not trying to get C's and barely know what I'm learning. I'm actually going there to try to learn things and try to get an education. So this scholarship expands on that to where you just need a minimum of 6 credit hours. And you don't have to have a GED. You don't have to have a diploma. You could go to get your GED at community college. It would be covered because it's a certificate program, right? Or you could go to get just a certificate. I want to become an ACE mechanic. Covered. You can go get that certificate. I want my associate's degree covered. If you want to go to UNM or New Mexico State or Tech or Portales or wherever you want to go, Eastern, Western, Northern, whatever.
Can you imagine being magically whisked away to Portales? You know what I mean? Just
I couldn't imagine. I couldn't handle life that good. I just
you know your limits. You got to stay modest.
I say that, but my nephew goes there.
Well,
love you, John. Eastern like rules. ESU, buddy.
There you go.
ENMU, Eastern Mexico. ENMU, buddy. I think they're the Pirates. Anyway.
Well,
so now everyday citizens in New Mexico that want to go back to educate themselves to better their career will have that opportunity to have it subsidized from the government 100%. Regardless, there's no income qualifiers.
Yeah. I was was reading the law. There's no gotchas in this that I can see. I mean, there's literally, it's spelled out and the definitions are very clear to me. Is like, if you want to now go to school to potentially get a much better, higher paying job and not be a dredge on society in New Mexico, not be have to turn to criminality or something like that. You literally just have to put forth the effort, carry 2 classes a semester, and have a C average essentially, because it's a 2.5 that you need to maintain, not even a 3.0.
Well, a 2.5. So that'd be a C and a B, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's not even that much to chew off and say, because again, I can't remember what other scholarship I lost. It was it the Regent Scholarship or something like that. But I think I had to mainly attain a 3.25 or something like that, which again is doable for somebody that gets like an academic scholarship, but that can start to hinder people if they're struggling in certain classes and certain semesters. It might be tough, right? But if you literally have to carry, like, let's call it a B- average or something like that, that's doable. This is doable. You know what I mean? Especially if you're taking more than 2 classes.
Especially for someone that's trying to squeeze in a couple of classes while working like 2 jobs.
Yeah. I mean, you can actually, from doing it now, that couple of classes, again, it's still juggling a lot when you have work and family and school, but you can put forth the amount of time and effort that you have for 2 classes a semester. That's very doable. It's still a very full load in like your capacity as a human being with all kinds of other things going on as an adult. But this is really exciting, man. I wonder. I think we looked at it was it last week when we were talking about this initially. It looks like a few other states have something very similar. It's definitely not a nationwide thing, but dude, imagine if you can feed off of the addiction from people gambling and playing the lottery and stuff like that, and turn that into opportunity for anybody that wants it. That's a goddamn good thing.
Yeah, and this puts New Mexico's opportunities for education up near the top of the nation, right? So as far as for higher education. So again, for those that aren't familiar with New Mexico, it's one of the worst educated states as far as high school goes. It's one of the lowest per household college degree per capita, in the country. It's one of the biggest impoverished and crime riddled states in the country. And I think this simple thing takes a great step forward to addressing all 3 of these issues. Because educating the workforce obviously is going to create more entrepreneurs, create more managers, create more just educated people to make decisions and educated voters. It's gonna really round it out. And I know I sound like a real bleeding heart fucking liberal here.
Oh, here we go.
But I think that this socialist program is phenomenal. And I think that the proof is going to be in the pudding over the next 10 years for New Mexico. And I think we're going to start climbing the charts, even with only 2 million population and limited opportunities for growth, because the folks that we do have here are going to be much more educated, hence much more able to get loans from the bank, have opportunities thrown at them. It's just going to open up a whole world of opportunities for our state. And I think it's the right move. And I'm pretty impressed that it was a bipartisan effort in the legislation to get here. Only 6 people voted against it.
Well, let's put those people on the website right away. Not that we like shaming around here, but we do. But no, I mean, let's just look at it from the New Mexico state point of view. And you're right. This is something that's like it's a state funded program, which normally I would shy away against. But again, I have to look into the details and split some hairs here. I believe the bulk of this, if not all of it, is coming from revenue from the New Mexico State Lottery. So I don't know how much of this is coming out of just Joe Schmo's pocket on his taxes. I just don't know how much that is. I'm sure there's an element of that. I'm sure New Mexico, the average person's paying for it in some way, shape, or form, in addition to the lottery funds. But still, it's something that if there is any kind of funded program by the state that you could get bipartisan support, I think it's smart that it's education, because selfishly, the state of New Mexico is literally just upping their percentage of citizens that can actually contribute positively to their GDP and to their economy. Right. That's what you're doing with this. I mean, yes, you could talk about the individual, like, opportunity stories and these great stories of people like coming from nothing. That's all fine and dandy, but the New Mexico state doesn't really care about that. They care that there's going to be more productive people putting money back into the economy and less people robbing, catalytic converters and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, it's a really good play by New Mexico, and I'm excited to see the data after a good 5-10 year run and see if it does a few things, right? See if we can taper off the insane amount of theft and crime that's in New Mexico, because that's one of the things they're always number one at, which, hey, you gotta be number one at something.
Gotta be great at something.
You do. And New Mexico's always had that. But all kidding aside, I think it's time for New Mexico maybe to like start topping the charts or get closer away from the bottom for some good things.
I would even take like bottom 40. You know what I mean? I would take just getting out of the top 10 states at being the worst at everything. Seriously. So I think this is a huge step forward. We'll see how it goes, but New Mexico's had a crime and poverty problem forever, right? 50 years, right? Yeah. But so obviously, like, throwing more cops hasn't fixed crime. Increasing the police budget in New Mexico hasn't solved the crime issue, because here we are still sucking at fucking crime, right? So
no, you're doing great at crime.
Yeah, we're really good. So I'm not the worst. I'm the greatest at being the worst.
Yes, there you go.
So I think this is a great opportunity, and it kind of goes along with the whole defund the police rhetoric, where we said that's just a terrible term. It actually means something else. And it's like, well, instead of like throwing more money at the policing force in New Mexico to get rid of the crime, let's try educating people for a decade and see what that does to our crime numbers. Right. It's going to take a while, because obviously it takes a few years for people to get degrees. And then it takes, a while for it to actually affect the population. So maybe a decade, you'll actually see some like good data.
Well, think about it though, Bob. Even if people are more busy being productive, doing productive things, they have less time to be jackoffs. So there's that. So maybe like the would-be criminals that are bored, idle hands or whatever, like, I got to do something here, I need some money. If they're hitting the books and they got a full-time job and they're like, just occupied doing schoolwork, maybe that already tapers off the crime a little bit. I don't know. I'm going to just throw my sunshine and rainbows hat on for a minute there and say, maybe you'll get a direct positive effect that you're not even thinking about.
Maybe.
So we can hope.
We'll see. I don't know. It's an exciting thing for New Mexico. Another big thing that they did while they were closing the legislative session just a little bit ago is they gave teachers raises across the board. And this is very interesting, right? So the minimum teacher salary for a New Mexico teacher in any public school is $50K. And then it goes up to $70K depending on depending on certifications, which I would imagine is like your education level, or I don't know what certifications go along with, but it's 50 to 60 and 70K are the three levels of teachers. That's huge. Yeah. So that might even like have people moving out here. I would love to have a retired teacher say, I'm going to go live in New Mexico because the cost of living is really cheap there, and I'm going to teach after I've retired from my other career and go make like $60K to subsidize my retirement. And we get the value of some highly educated person, even if they're older. Like, I think that's going to be a big thing to attract people here. And I think it's going to be a big thing to push people towards teaching that are homegrown, taking advantage of these scholarships and becoming teachers. Because if you're saying, I'm going to be an art major. Okay, well, maybe you should teach art and then go to a school and be a teacher and get $50K to start, right? While you're doing that, instead of, being a struggling artist forever, do that on the side. Little example, but like just that enticing people to utilize this free education system and then stay to be teachers, I think is another big thing for us. So we'll see. But, people still say our governor doesn't ever do fuck, but,
Well, I mean, that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to get into that one, but I'm going to say they are taking they are definitely showing effort. They're taking steps to do something about what's going on in New Mexico, and it seems to me like a positive thing. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm very pleased with one personally for you. Hey man, I would even say, because this goes into effect, just so anybody in New Mexico wants to know, this goes into effect July 1st, 2022. I mean, this year, in a few months, this is when this goes into full effect. It almost makes me want to tell you, like, don't take any classes this semester and wait till the summertime.
Well, I'm already in this semester, but I'm thinking about not taking it in the summer so I don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And just wait until the fall.
Yeah. Wait till it's fully subsidized, man. Take the summer off, dude, because again, I know time is of the essence. I know you want to get it done, but hey, what's another semester? You know what I mean? So there's that.
Yeah, I'll just go camping and go to the lake.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I think we're about out of time. Would you concur?
Well, that's just a shame. I didn't look at the clock.
Just a shame.
I didn't look at the clock when we started this episode, and I was like thinking just the topic before last, and I was just like, I wonder how much time we're going to be at today. I don't know. We've got a good feel for it. We'll probably nail it. But yeah, I'm going to take your word for it because you seem smarter than me.
Well, I did go to New Mexico school, so there is that. I wouldn't go too far following in my footsteps, my friend. But no, this was a fun one, Bob, and I'm really I know everybody has to be extremely pumped for next week's show where we're going to be having
Big titty orgy.
That's right, a big titty orgy, and it's gonna be on video too. So tune in, folks. It's gonna be a blast, and I can't wait.
YouTube's gonna have a field day with us naming our episode "The Big Titty Orgy."
But again, to recap today here, slow ball, not so good. Not so good.
It's like a no ball.
Yeah, it's like a no ball. Yeah, somebody that I mean, I finished it because I'm a drunk. But beyond that, I'm not going to make another one later today. I do encourage people to at least get out there and try it out. Step outside of your comfort zone, treat your palate to something unusual and maybe not so exciting, because that's the spice of life, variety and new experiences, folks. So guys, thanks for joining us again. Make sure that you get in there and check us out on YouTube. Like and subscribe, of course. Check us out on the podcast platforms. Rate us.
Yeah, and can someone, for the love of God, give us a review on iTunes?
That'd be nice. That would be nice. Sake. I mean, Bob is like simply just asking for it plainly right now. So don't upset Bob. You know he's already a fragile human being with his dermatillomania.
I will pick my thumbs to the bone if I don't see a review soon.
Guys, don't do this to Bob's fingers because they can get a little dicey. But anyways, guys, join us next week. Again, we're going to have a blast. And thanks, everybody, for checking us out. We'll see you soon.
See ya.